So let's talk about practicing research questions. Research questions are going to guide your whole project. So the first thing you're probably asking yourself is, why do I need a research question? What's the point? Well, a research question helps the project get focused. It keeps you on track so you don't start writing a paper about one thing and end up writing a paper about something else just to fill 10 pages, which ends up being a lot of work to get an F. And we want you to do well. So your capstone is going to answer a real life question. It's also the part of this that makes it interesting, and it lets you know, okay, I have more to do or I'm done because you're going to answer this real life question. And I've got a couple of examples here. On the left, we have, is murder bad? On the right, what caused the sudden rise in gun violence in our community? I think we can agree that, is murder bad? We don't have to have a big debate. Generally experienced murder is a bad thing. So that's not a good research question. You can't write 10 pages on that. I mean, it's true, we agree, but it's not a research question. What caused the sudden rise of gun violence in our community? That's a pretty good research question. I'm looking at causes. That's actually what's called the specific inquiry question. I'm going to write a couple, 3 pages on the different things that are contributing to it. And I got to research it. I got to see what the experts say. So it's got some legs. It's a good question. Now, there are 5 major characteristics. And if you look at this slide, this is a great example of a slide that you should never produce. There are 5 characteristics, and it's got really good information on it. I got this from the Purdue Writing Lab. I love this source. But too much words for a slide. You're going to give me this, hand me a worksheet, I don't need you. So don't ever, in general, ever write slides like this. Instead, break it down. And I'm going to do that for you right now. The first thing about a good research question is it's clear. And I'll give you the definition because I'm giving you this slideshow as a reference. It's got enough specifics so I don't have to work that hard to understand it, and I get a sense of what this is going to be about. For example, which national park is the best? That's lovely for a Yelp headline or if I'm writing for BuzzFeed, but it's not a research question, okay? Because I don't know what best means. Best is most popular, most land, most sunshine. What's best, right? As opposed to what features do the most popular national parks have in common? Cool things about this, right? First of all, it says what features, now I'm looking for a specific thing, and then most popular, that's my critique on that, all right? That's actually, I think, pretty darn clear. I like that idea, so let's go back to that. Now, put the pen away, here we go, back to that. Now, it's focused. It's focused means it's narrow enough that it can be answered thoroughly in the space that the writing tasks allowed, which means that, like, for example, I'll give you a couple of examples from somebody who's doing a study in ADHD medications. There's people who need the help with like things like Ritalin and those types of medications. So bad version of the question is, does medication help alleviate attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD symptoms? And do kids need more exercise? So the first half, we're talking about medications, but what medications? Like, which one? It's still not very focused. As opposed to, do kids need more exercise, which is like a whole other paper, the relationship between exercise and ADHD. Both can be turned into something, but they're kind of still all over the place. Whereas, how effective are the various types of medication in treating elementary students with ADHD? Okay, so I have 3 things in here that really help, all right? Various types of medications, I'm looking that up. And then I'm going to look specifically at elementary students, all right? Those are 2 things that I need to know. That's actually pretty good, pretty solid. Concise, it's expressed with the fewest possible words. That's going to be really important. For example, this one talks about whether or not science labs, which is something we call in teaching inquiry learning, the type of learning where you have to kind of learn as you go, which research has told us is the best way to learn. Well, they're looking at, do labs help people learn better than worksheets and textbooks? The wordy version is, do children learn more effectively in science labs compared to lessons using worksheets and textbooks? Okay, there's a lot of words in there that I don't need. In comparison to pretty much, if you want to know, this thing stops being interesting after this point, compared to using worksheets and textbooks. Useless information for me. Whereas, let me just clear this, right? I'll go back to this, and let's go back to this. Does scientific inquiry improve children's learning in science? So does scientific inquiry, so that's labs and any other inquiry activities I do, does that improve learning in science? Because the opposite of that is textbooks and worksheets, and I don't have to say that, right? So then the next is, it's got to be complex. So if you're asking a yes, no question, that's not going to work. So I don't want you to ask for an opinion. Remember the bad question about national parks, which one is best? Yay! That's a Yelp review. Nothing wrong with Yelp, but that's not your capstone. As opposed to require, actually, there is something wrong with Yelp, but that's a separate conversation. I'm losing focus. It requires you looking something up. You have to actually look things up to be able to answer. It's got that complexity to it. So, for example, is Hartford a dangerous city? I maybe have to look stuff up, but what do you mean by dangerous? This is very vague. I don't know what the heck we're talking about. It's kind of opinionated. I think it's dangerous. Yeah, I don't think it's dangerous. As opposed to, why has there been an increase in gun violence in the past few years? And what's being done about it? That's not only good because it's asking for questions like why and what is being done, but that opens up the idea of service learning. Maybe I could get involved in violence prevention. Maybe I can work with the peacekeepers. Maybe I can work with the people who do community work on this topic, and I can become a part of that. And my capstone paper can actually help solve that problem. So that's why that question puts you on a good path, okay? Clear the screen and get back to it. And then finally, it's arguable. Now, I know as teenagers, you can argue anything. I've been teaching teenagers for a decade, actually for 3 decades. And in 3 decades, I've never met a teenager who couldn't argue anything. But a good question has multiple legitimate sides. Go back to murder is bad. I suppose if I asked you to argue in favor of murder, that you probably could find a way to do it, but would be useless exercise is not legitimate. Whereas, like here's an example. Are illicit drugs bad for kids? Well, yeah, duh. I could argue against that, but why would I? It's not a legitimate argument. We know heroin is bad for your health. Whereas, which effective education strategies prevent drug abuse in teens? Now, we know what the problem is. We're coming up with specific places to do it because it says education strategies. How are the schools going to help? What am I trying to do? I'm trying to prevent it. So I'm going to deal with kids before they start. And then I'm dealing with teens, a specific group, specific demographics. There's a lot of meat in that question that'll put me on the right track. So your task, we're going to go back to it. You're going to take 3 topics from your brainstorm. You're going to find one credible article on each, and you're going to create one research question for each topic. So 3 topics from your brainstorm, one credible article on each, and create one research question for each topic. I'll show you that on this 3 ideas. This is your 3 ideas research question. You're going to go to the Connecticut State Library for the information. I'll show you that in another video. All right. And then what makes a good research question? This is going to link to the one that you just saw. That's the, if you forgot what a good research question is, you go back and look at it, right? And then here's for example. My topic is cell phone use in schools and its effect on learning. I'm dealing with cell phones all day long. It makes me crazy. I went online and I researched and I found a really easy article. I actually found 10 or 12. Technology distraction in student performance. And there's the link. So I put in the link and then I read it. It wasn't a long read. And it basically talked about, it summarized a study from the London School of Economics. And it said that they took 2 groups of kids and they took cell phones away from one and left the other with them. And the kids who had their cell phones taken away did better. The high performers got a little bump. The low performers got a huge bump. And that was what they said. And why it relates to my topic, I've seen a big drop in student performance in the last 10 years. The only major difference is the rise in smartphones used in schools. You're not all that different from the kids I had 10 years ago. But you all have cell phones and you're all on them all the time. And that's a huge difference in your reading performance, in your focus performance, in your math performance, in your creativity, your ability to work in groups. It's affected every area. And so I would make it my life's mission to fix that. So what school cell phone policies are likely to have the greatest positive impact on student learning? That would be a research question. Frankly, that would be one of many that I would have. That's an example of a research question. Another might be, what are the effects of specific effects on student learning for students who are addicted to their cell phones? Or how does cell phone addiction affect student learning? I could start looking at a bunch of those different ideas. I could check a bunch of different things. All right, so here's your first topic: title and author, link, summary, how does it relate? Possible research question, write it here. Second topic, whole different topic. So maybe this one, you did a whole thing on climate change. So do this on your climate change. Find an article and a possible research question. Then over here, maybe this was about gun violence. So your second topic is gun violence. Find an article, link summary, and this relates to it. So my possible research question is, what are the causes of gun violence? Got it? A third, whole different topic. We did climate change, but then now you're into domestic violence. So you're into domestic violence. Title and author, and then how it relates to my topic. This article talked about, women's income levels due to domestic violence, and possible research question: what are the long-term effects of domestic violence on women caught in that cycle? I could write that. So 3 different topics on that. It's going to take you a little while to get that done. Good luck. Wish you all the best. Thanks so much for watching.